Okay, so welcome to the latest episode of the NRG podcast, The Horse That Asked Why, and other stories. Change of format yet again. So, what we wanted to do with this episode is, for those of you that follow us on Instagram, you will have seen Ross Ainsley and Glen Gilmore taking most of September, noticeably not
and
with
Mrs.
Nick,
Gilmore.
and Mrs. Gilmore and Mrs. Ainsley for some of it, but noticeably not Nicholas, Sebastian, Horatio, Algernon May joining with you. Yeah, touring around the US, having fun, interviewing people, doing stuff and shit.
At what point was Ross's wife with us?
Wasn't she?
She was there.
No.
She was there emotionally.
We did talk to her a couple of times.
Yeah, she was there. She was there in spirit.
Yeah. I'm glad you were following along closely, Nick May.
Well, no, because the only reason I said that was that before we got on, Glen was saying, "Oh, we were talking about this," and Karen and Siobhan were talking about how shockingly organised you'd been, and I assumed that Siobhan had come along. But
no,
unorganised.
All
right, poor recovery. Right,
on.
So what we wanted to do was we've got a load of interviews lined up with some absolute legends, not only polo people, not only polo players, legendary from the past, but also current players, but also some incredible horsemen. And we wanted to kick off this episode to really set the scene, if you will, of how we sort of and how everything came to pass, and a little bit of detail about what you got up to. So I've got a number of questions.
Okay.
You put your hand down.
Yeah, I hijacked Ross's trip to America.
So my first question, you see, you've done it already. You've gone all premature on me again, Glen. Oh no, here we go.
Yeah. I'll wait for Nick to finish. But I actually have a different approach to that, Glen Gilmore, mate.
Okay.
So you got a different approach to this entire episode, have you, Roscoe?
No, just Glen's statement.
Okay. So my first question was, how did the idea of the R&G tour of the United States or America come to pass? Roscoe Ainsley.
Well, now you asked that question, Nick May. Listen, what it boils down to, Glen, I think you'll agree with this, is Glen and I have talked about doing awesome shit all of our lives. And all we do is work. And we work and we work and we work and we're like, we got to a point where we're like, oh, we should do the States, I think, and we were, let's do it. We're doing it no matter what. Like we just went, right, we're doing it. And now how are we doing it and what are we doing? So what we did is we went, right, okay, if we're going to do this, we want to actually have an amazing time, see as much as we can, but we want to actually, create some value in the process. So what Jess did with us and the saddlery business, we went, right, who are all the people we've been involved with through the saddlery business? Reach out to all those guys. We're going to go personally solve any problems they got that we can. If we've got any questions, we're going to solve those. We're going to go and check any horses they need checking, saddle fitting, bitting questions, anything. Okay, so we got a comprehensive list of all the people over in America, which is a big list and a massive job from Jess. And then we went, right, okay, so we got those people. Now, what else do we want to do? We want to go where we're not, where we've never been, that we think are places of interest. So we put those on the map, and then we drew out a map and tied in a few other things like Yellowstone National Park and awesome stuff that we want to see. We drew out a map across the country and went boom, 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 boom. That's what gave us the direction of our trip and gave it a way we're going to bring like immense value to us personally, whilst doing one of these trips that we've always talked about and not ever done.
That is a fantastic insight.
Yeah, there was a couple of places. Sorry, there was a couple of timings that we knew we had to do certain things at certain times, and then we just worked our way around to make it do what we had to do, because it wasn't exactly a straightforward trip where we started and what we did. So we originally had a map that Jess went and bought me with pens on it, because I thought we'll open up this map and then we'll go here, there, everywhere. But there was too many people in all these little areas. So what I did with my iPad, with my phone, is I just went through and put everyone that Ross had ever had anything to do with his stuff. The red ones on my phone here, because you can do it on your Google Maps, and I didn't know you could do it. I put red ones were the polo clubs, and the blue hat, which is Ross's colour, the blue cap for the blue gullet on the saddles, were every single person that he had anything to do with and had ever sold any saddles to in the whole area. So all around, I don't even know where this is. Where are we? Let's go and look at New York. And then you had all the people up in Virginia, for example. Up in Greenwich, that was our second day. So we just thought, right, we're going to go into New York, and then we're going to start from there. One of the cool things that started with us with New York was I'd heard on a podcast about a particular restaurant that we should go to called La Esquina, and that was a pretty seriously fun experience, Roscoe, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was going to because you got that from the Sports Bazaar guys. Is that like a bit of
exactly.
Is that a bit of a hidden gem?
I love it. Yeah, Sports Bazaar. It's two Aussie guys that talk about just really bizarre things that happen in sports, and they've just done some of the best. The latest one they're doing right now is the Far Lap one, Ross. Have you listened to the end of that?
No, I haven't.
No, so Far Lap is a famous horse in Australia. Have you?
I have. I wasn't talking about the podcast. I was talking about the restaurant. I know about Sports Bazaar because you introduced me to it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So I know about that, but I was talking about the restaurant. Is that a bit of a hidden Roscoe?
So Glen talks about this restaurant at the time I never heard of. Unlike ours, it's not that famous, but ours is. But anyway, so he's like, we're going to this restaurant. I'm like, and I'm only, as usual, paying half attention. So we end up at this joint. I don't even know how we got there, walked or drove or whatever. And
taxi.
We're just walking around half a block of this place looking for some guy in a top hat. And I'm like, oh, this is good. It's a hell of an experience. Anyway, so we asked you to look around. And then anyway, ended up one way or another, talking to this guy with like a full bar of steel teeth, like the villain out of a Bond movie, you know. And Karen or somebody ends up talking to him and asking about this restaurant, and then he says, come with me. Have you got a booking? And we're like, yeah. And come with me. So we walk through this American diner out to a back door covered in like stickers, like bumper stickers. And he said, follow me. We go through that door, downstairs to you think you're going into some sort of dingy kitchen. Well, you were going down into a dingy sort of looking kitchen. And then you go through the kitchen. And then all of a sudden, there's this amazing, in a below New York, there's an amazing restaurant, this Mexican restaurant with the colors and all it was mind blowing. Glenn Gilmore, take it from there.
No, it was brilliant. The food was awesome. There was really cool music, and you could have any types of margaritas, which we tried a few, which was seriously good fun. And it was just a cool experience to do. I was so glad we did it.
So this is where the two of us, this is where the three of us differ, because if I got talking to some bloke with metal teeth on a street corner in New York and he ushered me down some back alley and down some dodgy little alley, and something very unseemly would inevitably happen. I would definitely not end up in a fancy pants restaurant.
Only because of what you'd ask him when you were down there.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
And especially if you turned up with that reverse Hitler moustache that you're showing there. Hey, boys, thoughts. If we go too deep into every experience, this podcast is going to be 3 days long.
Yeah, we're not going to go in Sharp, Ross. We're not going to go there. I've got some high-level questions that I want to ask you.
Awesome. Can I ask you about your Mo? You've got a reverse Hitler handlebar chopper Mo. Going on there. Next November, let's get in behind. Let's all do Mo's, and let's do a charity. We'll see how many other people we can get involved, and let's try to create something awesome for the cause of whatever the cause is for. You did tell me the other day, but I've forgotten.
Yeah. Now it's interesting you say that, Ross, because I don't know if you remember on the group chat, you were the one that come up and said, "Let's do Movember," and Glenn said, Glenn said,
Glenn
no,
said
I'm
no.
not doing. Glenn said, no, I'm not doing it. And you went, yeah, doing it. So of the three, seeing it was your idea, it's only me that's actually doing it.
You're the only one that ever follows through on this podcast. This just true to form. Well done, Nick May. But I love your reverse hit the handlebars.
The reverse Hitler. It's got a couple of mentions. I have to say, it's caused a bit of a stir in Oslo, and I'm going to take it on tour. I'm taking it on tour to Canada on Sunday just to see the response it gets.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, get a lumberjacket. Hey, Glen Gilmore, can you just do a quick run through of the stats of what we did?
I'll just stop you there, Glenn. My question was going to be, Glenn, can you just give us a quick run through of the stats of where you how much you travel, please?
Right.
I
so
must
we
have
landed.
Not read that bit on the email.
We landed on the 16th of September into New York. It was late, so we didn't get to the hotel till after midnight. And then we finished. Well, Ross and I finished in Argentina on the 22nd. I dropped Ross off to the airport. I'm still in Argentina, and it is now the 21st. I've been down here a month. Can you believe that? So we did 15 states. We took 21 flights. We had 9 hire cars, and we did 10,345 kilometers. We visited 45 clubs.
2.5 times, which is just to give you some perspective here for those in the States that are listening, that is going across America horizontally 2.5 times. It's a big trip.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Did you get lost?
There was too many clubs to mention in Argentina, but we did 45 clubs in America. We did 7 podcast interviews, and we genuinely want to thank Karen Gilmore for putting up with us.
Oh, she was.
Oh my God. That woman is the idea of being trapped in a car. I mean, I would find it entertaining. However, for a normal person to be in the car with you two clowns, I think would have just been absolutely. It would have been like that road trip from Dumb and Dumber.
It was worse.
We're there. It was quoted a lot. But Karen was a superstar. I've always adored Karen. But for her she's just so awesome. She was just amazing, and she's just so awesome.
Yeah, you've done very well.
She
Glenn,
put up with us, idiots.
Oh my God! So talk about. Obviously, this is a lead into our US interviews. Give us a rundown of who we interviewed.
Okay, well, I'll start with, we landed in New York, had a look around Long Island, and a big shout out to the Finnemores that let us stay in their place, which was absolutely stunning. And then we did La Esquina that night. Then the next morning we went and did all around Greenwich, and we stayed with some really lovely people, with Alberto and Anne in their place, and it was just the loveliest place. And Anne, in the 90s, worked as a model for Giorgio Armani. It was seriously cool. She was a lovely, lovely lady. And so was Alberto. Remember, we sat and talked polo for hours, Roscoe.
We thought we had not that much in common, and then we did. How much fun was that? That evening was just awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then the next morning we got up early.
Just a little bit more. He actually grew up with all the people that we've spent a lifetime playing against or with, or all the other times. He grew up with, like, we were getting all these stories about all the, like, them as kids and what they got up to and all the naughty things, and because that was brilliant. But go on, sorry.
Roscoe, I'll just take you back to the comment that you said a couple of minutes ago about not going into every experience because this would end up being a really long episode.
Stop slowing us down.
Okay, sorry. Glenn, back to you.
So then we get up early the next morning and we start driving to Toronto from Greenwich, right? So we're flying along and, mate, we find a town called Roscoe. Couldn't have been better. So we have breakfast.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we did along our trip was we interviewed, and I actually haven't written that down on our stats. We interviewed probably about 8 to 10 people with our question: if you could go anywhere in the future, if you could go forward or backward, in the future, if you could go forward or backwards, whatever, where would you go and why? And there was some cool stories, Roscoe, wasn't there?
if you could go into the future or the past, where would you
That's
go
what
and
it was.
why? They were
Yeah,
phenomenal stories. Go to Glenn's social media and have a look at them. There were some pretty touching ones. There was some interesting ones. There's some really clever ones. Yeah.
and some funny ones. Yeah. And just to touch on that quickly, we met a young girl called Gracie Stevens in Aiken towards the end of our trip, and she's 9 years old, and I've become a pen pal with her, and she's such a cool chick. Another story, which I will get to. Now, I'm going to have to tell it now quickly because this is brilliant. So I'm in Argentina right now, and my Spanish is pretty rubbish, but I'm trying to learn, right? So I get somewhere. Yesterday morning, the lady comes in. She starts cleaning the house. I'm trying to talk to her about what we're going to do, what I'm going to pay her. Anyway, it was a shambles. So I have to then go and pick up some money for Ross. That was a shambles. She didn't know if I was who I was and whether I was. Anyway, had to count all the money, did all that. But Lucia had bought these postcards from Australia for me to send to young Gracie in Aiken, and they're 3D sort of postcards with kangaroos and koalas and stuff on them. And so we go into the supermarket, and I'm looking around and thinking, I wonder if there's a post office in here. So we're waiting for this lady to finish off doing her shopping, and I asked one of the ladies there, I said, in my best Spanish, which I thought I was saying, is there a post office around here somewhere?
Oh no.
No. So I showed her the postcard, and she was like, yeah, in Spanish, get on Google Maps. This is where the post office is. So I'm like, okay, cool, that's good. And later on, I found out that she sent me to the zoo.
I thought it was going to be much less appropriate than
No,
what you
it was to go to the zoo. Anyway, that's that. So we then drive like champions all the way up from, we do Roscoe for brekkie. We go through, we fill up at a particular fuel station, and this is when Ross's obsession with pickles started.
That's enough of that already. No, well, they have a lot of pickles, and it's got to be better than eating crisps or lollies or something. But I ate a lot of different pickles. A lot of them are horrendous, to be honest. But I've always fancied eating, like, those anyway. Oh God, how do we end up here? Righto, what else happened?
So we drive like
you do like to. The Roscoe Diner, yeah. When the boys told me they were in the Roscoe Diner, I was like, does the menu change every 15 minutes and you got a waiter that can never remember your order?
Actually, all it is vanilla malt milkshakes on everything. Just the cup changes.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. It was so good. So then we drove all the way to Niagara, saw the falls. They were awesome. Got driven over the Canadian border, go and see Isabel Hayen, the lady that I was with for 15 years in England, and
my
ex-girlfriend.
My ex-girlfriend.
Hang on, let's confirm with Glen. She was your patron and very close friend for all those years when you guys had the team. What was the team name? I can never pronounce it.
It was a Belgian name, a Flemish name. It was horrible to say. Groninger, but yeah, Groninger.
And
it was bad.
Probably the most successful medium goal team of that era, I would say.
Yeah, there was some pretty good ones back then, but we had our fair share. It was a lot of fun. So,
I think you did a high goal too, didn't you? You did one of the Gold Cups.
No, we didn't do high goal with Izzy. No.
Oh right.
No. So, but that was cool. And we ended up staying with Izzy for a couple of days, and then Ross flew out. We saw a bunch of cool people and polo clubs in and around Ontario. Not Ontario. Where were we? Toronto. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Brian O'Leary. I think actually that we need to get that guy on the podcast because we talk a lot about starting polo clubs. This guy and Nick May is, he's our resident expert.
We do not talk a lot about starting polo clubs, Roscoe. That is a complete lie. We've never done an episode on starting you idiot.
So we need to do an episode on starting polo clubs. Let me rephrase that.
Do we know anyone that's done that?
And Nick May, let's find the person that has maybe started a polo club in the most difficult country in the world to start a polo club. I don't know who that'll be, but anyway. But we need to have this polo club thing because all the like we've traveled the world. We're going to keep traveling the world. But so far, all the governing bodies that we've had to do with, I don't feel that the governing bodies or the people in it are doing enough to get people into the sport, because that's where the rubber meets the road on the sport, living or dying. Okay.
Correct.
What this guy has done, Brian O'Leary, up in Toronto, well, him and all his Emily and all the entourage, probably in the 3 clubs, which is another thing I'll get onto in a second. He's created a really good model which gets people from one stage to the next. And it looks like, based on what we were hearing and what we've heard, it looks like they've created a really good model. So I think we need to get him on and get Nick, and we can interview Nick, Glen, and talk about how do we get polo clubs going? How do we get more people into the sport and discuss their models? On that, Brian O'Leary, the other thing is a lot of areas in a lot of the parts of the world, like China and stuff, they have people interested in the sport, but you've got 3 clubs all close together, and we see this happen all the time. None of them talk to each other.
No.
Ego got in the road of the game, one way or another. I see it in Australia,
It's everywhere.
see it everywhere. It's crazy. But these guys have 3 clubs. They all run together. That's the other thing we'll talk to him about. That'll be a podcast later on. Glenn Gilmore, take it away.
Well, I was gonna say it's fantastic that you got such a good insight into polo in China from your tour in America. So that's great insight there, Ross. Thanks for that.
Insight into China comes into exporting and watching it unfold over the last about 16 years. But go on, I digress.
Surely not. Surely not. Glenn, back to you.
Yeah. So look, we had a great couple of days with Izzy. It was so nice to see her. Ross headed off to Houston. He flew off down there and did a couple of days down there, while Karen and I flew to Calgary, and we looked around Calgary quickly, and then we went to Banff that night, and the next day we caught the Rocky Mountaineer from Banff to Vancouver, and that was an incredible experience. Absolutely amazing.
Just to clarify,
And-
that's not a man, that's a train.
It's a train, the Rocky Mountaineer.
Got it.
It really is worth doing. We saw elk, we saw moose, we saw some unbelievable lakes, serious amounts of wildlife, and it was just some amazing place. So we did that over 2 days. There were 2 pretty big days. A bunch of bald eagles. Stayed at a town called Kamloops on the night, and it was really fun. It was amazing. And then Vancouver to San Francisco the next day, and met Ross there, and we then started our trip through pretty much the whole of California, and that was a lot of fun. We went down and saw a bunch of cool people. Well, we saw Alcatraz, the Golden Gate Bridge, and the crooked street that you see in all that sort of business, and Mission Street for a bit of Japanese. And then we went out to Woodside Park and saw Fran, Alex Wang, a whole bunch of cool people out there. Roscoe, that was good, wasn't it?
San Fran was also. I didn't realize Alcatraz was there, and then was looking at from the thing. Anyway, I didn't know that until we were driving along, going to the bridge, that big old bridge they got there, and Karen's like, "Oh, there's Alcatraz." I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
anyway, that was awesome.
it's got a gate which is golden on that bridge, isn't it? What's the name of that bridge that they've got? Roscoe.
Didn't look very golden to me.
Big Red Bridge.
Big red bridge.
Big old red bridge. That little street, that steepest, windiest street or whatever it was, that was pretty cool. But what was even cool were the cabs with no drivers.
Yeah.
They were just parked
that
up
was very
there.
cool.
They're on strike.
And flat tire. Oh God.
And
okay,
then
what do they call
what about where
those?
we went to that
Driverless
place?
taxis.
Yeah, driverless ones. But
Hang
where
on,
we went
hang
to the place.
on.
Oh,
Yep, we'll get to that. But Fran up there, okay, this is another place where there's 3 polo clubs, Menlo,
Woodside.
what were they called?
South Bay.
Woodside, and there was South Bay. So these are 3 clubs working in conjunction. Who's the pro that's up there? Jared Sheldon?
Yeah, he's up there a bit.
So he's up there a bit. But Fran is the lady that seems to be running a lot of it and putting it all together. And those people are getting back to what the fun, like the 101 of polo for me, getting people into the game. She's doing an amazing job. And what else? The other thing she's doing it's an amazing job with the horses. Like school ponies, it's hard to make polo schools work, and quite often they're not like the horses at the far end of their career, you know. But her horses looked incredible. Like she does such a beautiful job with them. They're some of the nicest school ponies I've seen with the ways they're looked after and the condition they're in and all that sort of stuff. She could do it.
Maybe we should interview somebody who's set up a polo school and club.
No, I don't think
and maybe get their insight and views on some of the challenges associated with that.
No, I think it'd be too boring.
So we went to dinner at a place called the Alpine Inn where the first ever email was sent. That was really quite cool.
First ever email. That blew my mind. And, sorry, keep going.
That's all right. So then the next morning we headed off to see Mike and Kate Conant, which was awesome. Then on the way down we saw Mishi, Memo, Megan, Nano, Matt Gonzalez and his wife at La Herradura. And then we saw your good mate Jethro in Santa Barbara that night and had the awesome dinner at the fish restaurant.
Haven't seen Jethro for over 25 years. And we haven't seen him for that long, and just, mate, let's go for dinner. Boom. Oh God, isn't it wonderful, all the people and relationships you have, and you can touch base. Even Mike and Kate, I hadn't seen them for 10 years. So good to see them.
Yeah, it really was.
And we stayed in a place in Summerlin. Glorious.
That was so good to us.
Thank you so much, Mike and
Kate. Then we bolted through and had a look at Santa Barbara Polo Club, fitted a few saddles, and then we headed off down and saw Corky. And we'd been up in Canada. It was pretty cold. We needed a jumper. And we went right through Coachella and everything with Corky and Kathy at Deer Creek. It was 44 degrees Celsius.
A bit like a desert. Norwegian spring.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably a bit more humid, I would imagine.
What was amazing about driving around that place with Cork was how many polo establishments there actually are, and also it reminded me of something that I heard Nick Jones say about Fred Mannix, Ricky Bailey told me about it. He was saying Fred Mannix once told him that of all the money he spent in polo, buying his polo farms, sitting on them, and then eventually, like, you buy strategically near a polo club,
enjoy them.
Eventually, enjoy them, live them, whatever, your family, all that, great environment. And then eventually they get bought out and pay for all your polo. Like, you end up wiping, like, and these guys have spent, like, Freddie Mannix Senior's played the New Zealand Open a bunch of times. Like, like he's gone large, and those strategic property purchases just for enjoyment end up covering all the costs. Any interesting topic.
It's so clever.
Yeah. I've done a slight variation on that. Where I'd get all the sunk costs and then I just continue to put the costs in them and it doesn't pay for anything. So quite frankly, Mr. Mannix, I think you're doing it all wrong.
Oh my God.
So back to you, Glen.
That's okay. Next morning we head off. No, we don't. We're just poking around there, and Ainsley goes off for a run. And as Ainsley does, he actually did a Glen Gilmore. He went and started meeting a few locals. And we met a lovely lady called McKenna Norris, a lovely girl, show jumper. She gave us a bunch of really cool information about the college football game that we were going to go there that afternoon. Corky took us around and showed us all the different places around there. And we went into the, was it the Horse of the Year property, Roscoe, where all those stables were?
Yeah. I don't know what they call
vast.
it, but holy smoke. This is hunter jumper and show jumping, all that sort of stuff that I don't really know much about the hunter jumping scene, but holy smoke, the scale of that place. It was mind-blowing. What was that, 10,000? No, 4,000 horses? What was it?
It was something stupid. It was so big. And it was opposite.
So big.
Yeah, right opposite Jay Leno's, where he has his own race course in there, his own driving racing cars, because he loves his cars, Jay Leno. So it was pretty cool. And then that evening, we interviewed Corky and Kathy, which is going to be one of our cool podcasts coming out soon.
Yep.
We then got up quite early on the Saturday, the 28th, and went up to the California Polo Club. Roscoe.
I actually
Ross
really
Ainsworth.
enjoyed that. Corky and Kathy Linfoot. I really enjoyed that podcast because
Yeah.
we learn a lot during our podcasts. But that one, his ability and her ability to articulate what
So
the
good.
message they're getting across with regards to horsemanship is phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
we could have been there 5 hours with me just pulling information out of them that I have that I can utilize. Like that was a glorious experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I've edited it up, and I think it's going to be at least a 2-parter, if not a 3-parter, because there's just so much information in there.
Yeah, we will probably have to go and interview him again, but that was
Yes,
cool. So
100%.
yeah, California Polo Club, awesome. And when I say him, I meant Kathy and Corky, because Corky is nothing without Kathy.
Yeah.
So we then go to California Polo Club. We saw some friends up there. What about the lady we met that worked for Elon Musk, SpaceX, and worked on the design of the Tesla Cybertruck? And she was playing polo
So
at California Polo Club.
She's in one of our saddles. So she's obviously a clever engineer. Anyway, so we went there to fit some saddles at the California another polo club bringing people into the sport, which is doing an amazing job and a really fun environment. They've got a great vibe there, haven't they?
Really do. And it's fun.
But
It's
that
good.
girl's, yeah, sorry, go again.
You're right. No, I was just saying it was really good. The polo was fun. That was all pretty cool to go and see. And yeah, they're getting lots of new people into sport. Our good friend E.B. Sivrite used to coach there and do a bunch of stuff. And yeah.
So that girl was a team of 30 that built the Tesla Cybertruck thing, which is pretty amazing.
and she's put your saddles in the Tesla Cybertruck.
Yeah, you get to sit on one of our saddles when you're driving it.
That is a
phenomenal.
really good idea.
What a fantastic.
Now you say that.
That is a good idea.
Back to you,
now
back
you
to you
say it.
then.
No, then we went to what can only be described as a sensory overload, which was the college football game between the USC Trojans and the Wisconsin Badgers. I can't
What?
express how much stuff was going on.
They couldn't do anything else. In your wildest imaginations, it's like, let's add this to make the experience even more overwhelming. I can't think of anything else they can do.
No.
They had like a 50-piece band on this platform that was playing live, and it's seriously hot. And they're all in this big, heavy, like clothing. Like they got jets going over the top with stuff coming out, the colors coming out the back. Like there's nothing, the fireworks on the thing, and there's nothing else they could do. And it was the opening ceremony location for the LA Olympics, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's going to be for the next one.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
You reckon
And in
Carl
case you're
Lewis
wondering,
opened
maybe preload with your drinks before you get there, because beers were $20 each, and a glass of margarita was $28.
That's Norway prices.
Correct.
How
Oh,
good
really?
were those? How good was that margarita in that restaurant we were talking about in New York?
Lovely fella.
That's a little while ago, Roscoe.
That was so good, though, wasn't it? That was
It's
a
a
game
great,
changer.
it's a great
That was
pizza.
worth.
If you get it right,
was
it's a
worth-
really good.
That was
Jesus.
worth me drinking that margarita, tempting gout. That was worth it.
And that's not a pet name for the bloke that you took along with you either, is it?
Exactly.
Oh, God,
No,
get
it's
it out
not.
of it. Get it out of
So
it.
we
Righto.
headed down to see a good friend of ours, Ratty Bray, at the Bonsall Polo Club, and we went down past, when we left Linfoot's, we went past that lake. Yes, Roscoe.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I butted in here. I thought you forgot those two little bits on the way to that trip.
Okay, sorry, that's all good. Absolutely loved going in through there, and we were told to go to the town of Julian. And when you go to Julian, you have to go and have pie in Julian. That's apparently what you have to do, and it was unbelievable.
Oh wow.
So one thing we did miss there is the lake, that
Oh, yes.
the basin there was actually like where Palm Springs was, I think, where it was, where the whole place was, all like Indio, and that was actually a lake, and you could see the level on the edge of the mountains where the lake used to sit. It's mind blowing. You could see like the water level where it was, but then there was an earthquake. Like
Somebody left the plug out.
Earthquake in relatively recent times, and it sent all the water into another state.
Wow.
And and so now there's only a tiny little lake there because it diverted, and that happened just through an earthquake. It's incredible seeing the level on the thing. Anyway, that was on the way to Julian, where we had the most amazing pumpkin pie.
Wow.
Righto.
It was pretty freaking cool, actually.
Back to you, Glenn.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, so we snuck through there, and we then bolted on down. We saw Cacho Galindo. We met this quite interesting Mexican patron down there, and another guy that looks after him called Ashton Wolf. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Name.
We got isn't it good? We got right down to the USA-Mexican border, and we saw an abandoned arena polo club right down on the border. That was pretty nuts.
What we tried to do was to get to where the border goes into the ocean, but it was all blocked off. We could get about a kilometre from there. It was all blocked off, like official stuff. There's cages there where they round up the people coming over the border and put them in and like little prisons and stuff all around there. It's pretty interesting. But right there was an abandoned polo club with a heap of stalls, covered stalls. Like, man, if that was here, I'd just like get it all and set it up here. It's a hell of a resource not being used.
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
Back to you, Glenn.
Roscoe and I then did 17 kilometers all around San Diego on e-bikes, and absolutely
San
loved
Diego.
it. It was
San
a
Diego
really,
is one of my favorite cities.
cool town. And then had a lovely dinner with Mrs. Gilmore. And Ross, do you remember we rang your friend Ian Francis about Clinton Anderson that night? That was an amazing phone call.
To be fair, to give you a bit more perspective there, Ian Francis is one of the all-time best Australian...
It's not prospective. Perspective.
Thank you. I'll try to get that right now. I appreciate your help. So Ian Francis is one of the legendary horsemen in Australia, and someone I actually haven't had anything to do with, but I've had a lot to do with people that have had a lot to do with him, and I've always been annoyed that I actually wanted to go work for him, but got taken a different route with polo, because this guy is a phenomenal competitor and horseman, which is two quite often very different things, which we could talk about another time. But so this guy, we got him on the call. We did a conference call with him. It was everything we could have imagined, or I could have imagined after hearing about him for 40 years. And it was mind-blowing. And we're going to go get him on the podcast.
He was really interesting. He was really good fun. Yeah. Next morning, we early off to the airport and flew into Jackson Hole. Wow. Jackson Hole, got ourselves a massive Chevy Tahoe, big Chevrolet Tahoe, and drove through to Sheridan that night. It was quite late. We got in late, and many, many thanks to an amazing lady called Karen Reese, who looked after us and just took us in and just said, yeah, we don't know you from a bar, but just come in.
What also, we have to thank that lady for praying for us.
Oh, yes.
Because at night you don't want to be driving over there because of all the moose and the deer and so forth, and the bears and everything else.
Roscoe, that was actually the next day.
Oh, sorry. Was it?
No, that's okay. Yeah, because remember we went and we interviewed Tommy, and then the next day we were driving to Cody, and we saw her in a service station.
Oh, I thought it was that day I thought we were trying to get to Karen's. That's why we're pushing.
But that's sorry, Nicholas.
And there was margaritas.
Anyway, back to you, Glenn.
No, but there was margaritas.
No. Back to you, Glenn. No.
So on the flight, right? On the flight from San Diego to Jackson Hole, I meet this guy beside me, lovely fella called Brooks, owns the gym in Sheridan, in bloody, what's the name of the place? In Jackson Hole. And he said, look, you got to talk to this guy, that guy. I told him we did a podcast. We have now met his really good friend, Key Creed, who is from the Three Spear Ranch. And we are going to interview Creed coming up because of me meeting and being sat next to this guy on the flight.
Wow. Super
Anyway.
That's
cool.
awesome.
So that was pretty cool. And we ended up going all the way over to to Sheridan. We stayed with Karen Reese. She was an amazing lady, really helped us out. And we went and interviewed one of our all-time heroes, Tommy Wayman, spoke about bits, horses, everything. It was just so cool. We did a trip around the town of Sheridan, went to Balding Bits and Spurs, the Mint Bar, King Ropes, the museum. The museum was ridiculous. I can't explain to you. Out the back of this King Ropes, you go through the museum and there was just way too many things to see there in 2 days. There's no way you could get through this whole museum in 2 days. There was too much
Wow.
stuff. It was quite something. So we finished that. The podcast was really cool. We had you, Ross, you, Nick, you came in with us, Ross, Tommy Wayman, and you were in Sardinia at the time, Mr. May.
I was.
And then we had Toby Wayman from Florida. Roscoe, I was just talking about the museum in Sheridan behind King Ropes.
So let me talk you through this. This museum, I never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. We've got a podcast going here, recording. Please.
Yeah.
So
and I'm
that
against
didn't go
the clock,
down well.
so-
My delivery didn't go down well there. So we're in this. We get this salary, right? We got this salary, and we go, okay, cool. We'll go over. Yeah, so you must go. You must go. You must go. So we're there, and we're like, oh, have you been out? Have you seen the museum? I'm like, what? Maybe I wasn't paying attention for a change, and they were like, go across the thing. Anyway, go out the back. So salary, cool salary, art gallery next door, all awesome. Go out the back, and there's like you're in behind the main street. There's not much to look at. There's a little steel door of a warehouse looking thing. Walk through this steel door, and all of a sudden there's a massive saddlery in there where they're making all the lassos, and there's a bit of memorabilia on the wall hanging up and stuff. And you're like, wow, this is really cool. And you think that's what you're looking at. And then you go around the corner and you got to do this $1 donation or something, and you go into the actual museum, which I didn't even realize was there. This museum was unbelievable. Anyone that goes into that state needs to go to it. They need to go and see it. You're going to need to go and see it, go have lunch, and then go back. There's so much information to take in, read, look at. So many artifacts from Indian history to like you name it, like the cowboys. There's a whole wall of just farrier tools that have gone through time. There's a whole wall of different tools for leather work. There's the old cowboy culture from woe to go, which is a massive part of the history of America, obviously.
Yeah.
There's all these old hearses, like horse-drawn hearses. There's bears, like taxidermy, full-size. It is, Glenn. I don't think there's words to sum up what's in there.
No, you can't. As I just said before, when you were just chatting off air, it would take you 2 days to see everything in there, and I don't know whether you'd get it all done. And it was incredible.
No.
Jeez.
Go see it, everyone. It's awesome. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, so Cody was a pretty cool town that we then went to, drove through Cody that night, saw our first moose there, moose spotter, Glen Gilmore with the one eye, spotted the moose. And then we stayed, Tommy Wayman suggested we stay at the Irma Hotel, and that was a really interesting hotel to go and see with all of once again, the taxidermied animals everywhere. And had a lot of fun, talked to a few of the locals that night. Next morning, we got up early and
Wait up. We got to talk about Cody a bit more. So Everyone's heard of Buffalo Bill, whether it's the ice cream or whether it's whatever. So Buffalo Bill what was his name? Cody. Bill Cody.
Bill Cody. That's the name of the town. Yeah.
So he created this town, and he had a stage show or a show that went from town to town to town to town, all around the states. So he created this town himself, and this town, it was unbelievable. And the hotel was sensational. It had a bar in it. Talk us through the bar, Glenn.
A hotel with a bar in it. Do tell.
You pipe down.
No. The actual wooden piece of the bar was given to him by Queen Victoria. He was in England doing a show. She loved him, and she heard that he was starting a bar in Cody and starting this hotel. And she sent him, what was it made of? Chestnut?
Cherry wood.
Maple. Cherry wood. Made of cherry wood. And this thing was
MDF.
had to be 15 meters long. I mean, it was so big, and it was a full bar
at least,
with
and
all
like
of the
like
accompaniments
4
behind.
or 5 meters high. All the stools, all the bar, all the backdrop, like the whole thing was spectacular. It was, and this is like 18.
The stools were 4 or 5 meters high.
Stop it.
No, out the back was 4 or 5 meters high with the mirrors and stuff.
Oh yeah, okay.
But so this was like in 1880 or something, wasn't it, Glenn? This is a long
Yeah,
time
it was
ago.
a long time ago.
Beautiful. That was fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Back to you, Glenn.
Yeah. Next morning, up early, drove through, had a bit more of a look through Cody, and then off we went through Yellowstone, and we couldn't work out why there was all of a sudden a bloody traffic jam in the middle of the road. It was like, what's going on? There must have been a car crash.
In the middle of nowhere.
Everyone, and I'm talking 200 people, cars, everything was stopped taking photos of moose. The whole thing, you couldn't get through. Do you remember that, Ross?
Is that moose or
traffic
bison?
jam? Yeah, both. Bison first and then moose afterwards.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sensational.
That's a nice part of the world. Very volcanic, which I didn't realise, but now obviously I should have. We got taught that at school. Yeah, that was a good trip.
Back to you, Glenn.
Sorry.
In summary, that was a good trip.
A good summary.
Oh,
a good summary.
Oh my
Good
God.
chat.
Well,
good chat.
We go back end up in Jackson Hole, stayed there. We just found a place to stay. It was really, really cool place to be. And Ross and I were like, right, let's go and see the Jackson Hole Polo Club. It must, it's down here. It says on the map, there's one here. Karen had a bit of a kip. She wasn't feeling great. Roscoe.
Right, I'm going to tell this story because I might be embellishing a little bit, and I want to keep true to my embellishments. Going
back to your bit at the beginning where you said we're not going to go into every experience because it'll end up being a really long episode.
I agree. I 100% agree. But
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
If anyone's asked
tell us the story.
Well, now you asked.
Tell us the story. Tell us the story.
So, okay, two things. One is, I can't believe I had lunch with 2 people yesterday, and every single day I come across someone that was following our trip. We didn't really publicize it that much. We just put some really shit content up of us having a bit of a laugh and seeing some stuff that we thought was interesting. We probably shared, 5% of what we actually did and saw, I reckon. Would that be fair, Glenn?
Correct. Maybe 10, but 5, yeah.
So polo people, non-polo people, yes, so many people followed what we were doing and found thing, and a lot of them wish they were involved, and that's been quite overwhelming. But also, the first thing they asked me is like, oh, wow, what was it like? And I said, listen, the number one takeaway from that whole trip was the hospitality we were shown by the entire country. This is a good example of that hospitality. We rolled up into this Jackson Hole Polo Club. We didn't know, uninvited, as most places we went. We just turned up. We there's one old guy there throwing a rug on a horse, so we just thought, oh, well, let's go have a chat with him. We drive over there. He's throwing these covers on the horse, and we're like, oh, g'day, how you going? Yeah. Just start chatting to him. He didn't know who we were, no idea. He'd heard the Gilmore name before, but he had no idea who we were. And he's like, within about 10 minutes, he's like, well, actually, I'm going to the guy that owns this club's place for a beer. Do you want to come? And we're like, oh, yeah, righto. We'll go. Anyway, so we roll over there, and then it's a guy that Glenn actually met 26 years ago. I'm not sure if you remember Glenn or not, but we're in his house. He's having a kip. He wakes up and like, oh, hey, g'day, guys. And anyway, we're there for an hour chatting away. And they're, oh, why don't you stay for dinner? The bottom line is that the country was so hospitable and so lovely, and everyone was so welcoming. It was actually the most amazing thing of the whole trip for me personally. And so thank you, all you guys involved, and everyone, go and do it. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
Back to you, Glenn.
So that night, if we did do one post of the $1 Million Cowboy Bar. That was madness. That was super cool fun to go and do that. We had a
Yeah.
bit of dinner there. Karen wasn't feeling great, so she went to bed. Next morning, we got up early. Ross and I did to go looking for moose and bear, and we found nothing. And so, yeah, we picked up Karen, did a bunch of work on the
We
computers
found a
that
dead
day.
moose.
Hey?
Fellas,
Found a dead moose.
I got 5 minutes, and then I've got to go and pick up Emma.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're going to have to do part 2, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, on that note, we're going to do a part 2 on this because we're only about halfway through, aren't we, Glenn?
Well, we're on
Yep.
to the 3rd of October, and we've got a bit to go.
Okay, so I want to ask the question as the lead into the next one, and I want you to prepare your answers. I want to know why I didn't even get an invite to this tour.
Hmm.
We'll get back to you on that one.
It wasn't as easy. Well, I didn't. The first I
Stand
knew
by.
about it was just like, yeah, we're going to America, and I was like, oh, all right then. Waiting for the. And why don't you come with us? Nothing.
We have no comment on that at this present stage until further adjourned.
We declined to answer on the grounds we may incriminate ourselves.
But I didn't. Not so much as a.
Oh,
dicky
get
blow.
over it. Righto. Any of the listeners, you're gonna have to wait for our response on the next podcast.
Yeah, you can have a think about a plausible excuse as to why I didn't get an invitation, and then we will pick up in episode numero
Oh my God.
2.
Righto.
Then I think we need about 2 months to come up with a good reason.
Yeah, we're gonna have
we
to
might
work
have
something out.
messed up.
Cool. All right, fellas. Let's okay. We'll come up with a plan for record session number 2. But on that note,
Okay.
on that bombshell, back to the studio.
But what studio? We're in it.
Awesome. See you guys. That was awesome. That's gonna